This episode, as with all episodes, exists thanks to the supporters of the show who contribute a mere $3 per month via patreon.com/copytradersclub. You can too. It takes 2 minutes to sign up and you probably won't feel it. What you will feel is a warm, fuzzy feeling of helping out a little independent podcaster who creates a show you enjoy and get value from. Patreon.com/copytradersclub. Thanks for listening and thanks for your support. Copy Traders Club, where you can learn how to make better decisions and more money copy trading. I'm Gavin Macaulay, my name and username on eToro. Chess-related opening. In episode 22, we had a bishop. Last week's podcast guest made a bad move by resigning like a drama queen at the last minute. But this week, we have a proper champion. At chess, Scrabble, poker, and he's a black Star PI. What's his game on eToro? Let's check. Here we go. Season 2, episode 23 of the Copytraders Club podcast, and as always, my aim as an eToro enthusiast is to demystify this new and uncharted world of copy trading, understand what are the pitfalls and best practices, and how ultimately to succeed as a copy trader. In chats like today's, the aim is to answer all your questions about this popular investor, and reveal more about them than anywhere else, so you can assess whether they might suit you. In this episode, we talk to Christian Kongsted, aka CPHEquities, who has risen to the upper echelons of the Popular Investor program. He has travelled all the way from Denmark to visit us at the Copytraders Clubhouse. And here he comes. Christian, hi. Velkommen til Copytraders Club.
That sounds great.
Oh, thank you very much. What's great is that you're here, Christian.
Yeah.
Copytraders Club. And I know you know I need you to answer a series of quickfire questions to get past security. Ready for those?
Yes, I am.
Username on eToro.
CPHEquities.
Date you joined eToro.
20th of April 2017.
Date you became a popular investor.
Sometime in autumn 2019. I don't remember the exact date.
Year of birth.
1972.
Place of residence.
Copenhagen.
Profession.
Investor.
Briefly state what you aim to achieve on eToro.
I aim to take my account on eToro from $52,000 to $1 million in 16 years.
Name one of your investing heroes.
Jim Simons.
Name one of your favorite investing books.
The Man Who Solved the Market by Gregory Zuckerman.
That completes the formalities. Let's proceed now into the VIP section here at the Clubhouse. The wondrous surroundings of the Copy Traders Lounge await you.
Sounds good.
Christian Kongsted, aka CPHEquities. Are you ready for this magical transition?
I'm ready.
Christian, here we are now in the lounge. You take a seat here on one of these big, comfortable sofas. An old fella like yourself needs to relax when you get the opportunity.
That's true.
I'm delighted to hear that your year of birth is 1972. Normally, I'm talking to people who I could be the parent of.
I see.
I'm 73.
How old are you?
I was born in 73.
Okay. I thought you said you were 73.
Well, I really need to work on my lighting, I think, if that confused you.
No, I was surprised about that. So,
Well, I'm glad.
yeah.
Well, because I was wondering how old you might be, and I was thinking you could either be about my age and still look pretty good for it, or you could be, you could easily pass for 10, 15 years younger.
Okay, yeah, you're flattering me a lot, I think.
Well, that's my way of buttering you up for all the tough questions that follow.
Look forward to that.
So, you are from Denmark, as my wondrous introduction suggested. Did that feel like you were talking to a fellow Dane?
Yes, almost.
Almost. Okay, so let's have a little bit of background about you. From what I know, mostly just comes from eToro. You've reached the very heights of competitive Scrabble and chess.
That is true.
I saw someone commenting today on a video about you that the chess level you reached is like no joke. I mean, that's seriously competitive.
Yeah, it's. I was doing quite good until I stopped, but that was 15 years ago, and I was at elite level. I was competing with the best in my country. I was playing the Danish championship, but I just realized that taking it to the next level would require almost all of my time, and I chose to focus on other things. But yeah, I'm playing at a pretty high level still.
One thing I'd like to ask is how come it says Blue Screen Media on your profile? Why is that not supposed to be your real name as a PI?
Yeah, well, the thing is that it's a company account, and I'm not allowed to change this name to my own name, and that's really a pity because it means that actually people can only find me by searching for CPHEquities and not searching for my name, which is Christian Kongsted. And as if you have a company account, you cannot do it in any other way, and that's a little bit of a pity, I think, because people actually cannot find me. That means less people will copy me just from hearing my name. So I have to instruct them in how to search on it.
And is that your company?
That is my company, but actually I own this specific company with one of my good friends. So we own this company 50-50, but he has no involvement in what I'm doing with this copy trading. It's just something that this was originally a company account. It was never meant to be a copy trading account, and now I just can't change it.
Is that an online marketing company then?
It's actually it's a company that does a lot of different things. It does online marketing, but only for our own activities, and we're basically doing a lot of activities within investing and trading and stuff like that. So I'm working full time with trading and investing, but doing it in various different ways.
Because I know among your previous professions were online marketing, journalism. You're a published author.
Yeah.
You seem to have achieved quite a lot. And we'll get on to that shortly. You're also married. You're a family man.
Mm-hmm.
Your wife is of Indian heritage. Is that right?
That's true. Yeah.
Now, did she ever comment that you two were destined for each other, since Jane is your middle name?
Well, I took the middle name after her.
I did wonder.
So that's the reason why I have this. So my name was not Jane until 7 years ago. So now I have the same name as millions of Indian people. It's a common name in India because it's connected to Jainism, which is one of the big religions in India.
One of the world's oldest religions, aiming to live with as little negative impact on other life forms as possible.
Exactly.
The reason I know about it is in Thailand, lots of restaurants have a flag illustrating that they're Jain vegetarian restaurants, which avoid even onion, garlic, and root vegetables, since they involve destroying the whole plant, preventing future growth.
Yes, it's also like originally they avoided going in, any kind of vehicles because that you could kill insects on the road, and that means that they didn't get so far through the country as other religions did. They were traveling slower because they had to go by foot, And this means that other religions spread faster than Jainism because those people were not traveling with their vehicles.
Very good. That's very interesting. So both your first and second names are religions, Christian and Jain.
That's true.
So I hope you're not getting a God complex.
A God complex? What? God. No, that's completely different from that.
Okay, let's change tack a little bit. You were at the PI meetup in London recently. How did that go?
That was a great meeting and a great event. London is beautiful at this time of the year, and it was so nice to meet. I think we were around 200 popular investors meeting, exchanging ideas, and meeting each other for the first time. For me, it was the first time meeting like any of the other popular investors. So that was really a great opportunity. Loved being there.
And who did you spend most time with?
I tried to talk to as many people as possible, so I cannot say. I guess one person I spoke the most with was one Danish guy that I'm cooperating a little bit with, and he wants to become a PI as well. And as we have been talking beforehand, he was probably the person I had been talking most with before, and so for this reason, I also spoke with him a lot over there. But I did actually speak to a lot of different PIs, so it was not like very intense with just a few people.
Okay, let's talk about how I came across you. It strikes me that when I signed up for eToro, you weren't a big name that stood out initially. But then all of a sudden you were right up there. Was your ascent a slow build over time or quite a rapid spurt?
I would say it was quite rapid. I think I've been a popular investor for 2.5 years now, and that it was quite fast in the sense that I almost didn't realize what was happening, and suddenly I had like 20,000 people copying me. So there was it was quite fast. It was like 1 year where a lot of copiers came. That was last year, and the year before that I had maybe like 50 or 70 people copying me. And I was just, it was very peaceful and it was going good, but not so many people had discovered that I was on the platform, I guess.
Well, that's a nice message of hope for all those PIs out there with a few dozen copiers.
Certainly. I mean, but I think it's also very much about the investment climate that has some importance here, because the climate right now is very different. I was part of this whole wave in 2020, 2021, where there was a lot of attention. People were in lockdowns, and so everybody was being home and investing. And this year, it's actually a completely different feeling in any sense. So this means that if you want to be one of the top popular investors now, you have to have a little bit more patience, because you're not going to get the same number of copiers that you would during this lockdown phase. So I've been a bit lucky as well to be one of the people that were part of this phase. And I mean, other phases are going to come again, but I think you need both skill and luck to get to the top in this game. And it's like other games, like especially like Scrabble, which I like to play a lot. You need skill, but you also need some luck. And in this sense, you have to set up yourself to get lucky. So you do everything you can, and maybe you don't succeed at all, but you have to give yourself your best chance to get lucky. And that's how you play Scrabble as well. You optimize all the time. And even though you play the best game you could play, you can still lose because the tiles were not in your favor. So you have to set yourself up to get lucky. And that's what I did. And I got lucky as well.
Yeah, you mentioned Scrabble there. In researching you, Christian, your story appears to be one success after another. You seem to be very good at very many things, just about anything you turn your hand to. Chess, Scrabble, poker, writing books, running marathons, and now being a PI on eToro. You're accustomed to success. So, it might be useful if I ask you to tell us about a time when you simply failed at something. And I don't just mean adjusting your microphone settings.
No, because we actually just tried that, and I wasn't very good at adjusting the microphone settings. So that's one thing. But I would say that's one thing that I'm failing at right now, and that's to do pull-ups. I'm not very good at physical. In the gym, I'm not the person that people would say like he's a really strong guy. So I've set up myself for a test that I want to be able to do 10 pull-ups. That's really difficult for me because I'm 88 kilos and I'm not a strong guy, but I need to do it before this year is over. And that was my New Year's resolution. And I haven't done one yet. So I'm failing this year to do that. That's one thing. And in general, there are a lot of things that I'm not good at. It's just like I tend not to focus on the things that I'm not good at. I focus a lot on the things I'm good at, and this means that when people watch me from outside, they tend to have the same feeling as you have, that I have been successful in a lot of things, but it's just because I focus so much on those things, and I really ignore a lot of other things, and there are so many things I can't do. Like I'm not good at drawing. I'm not especially good at dancing. I'm not good at keeping things in the right places in my home. You can ask my wife about that. It's really disturbing for her. Like I don't close the locks. I'm all the time in my own thoughts, and that's a bit distracting for, especially when you live with someone. That can be kind of difficult. So I'm not like the person that keeps physical things in good order. Not like that. Things are in order in my in my head, in my investing, in my intellectual challenges, but in the physical world, things are not necessarily in order, and my desk is usually kind of messy.
Yeah, that's interesting. Something I can relate to when you talk about not closing doors or whatever, and it irritates your wife. My wife accuses me of being a scatterbrain sometimes. And it's not that I'm a scatterbrain, it's just that I'm thinking about something else. I'm running about thinking quite deeply about something, and I'll forget to do the simplest thing. And then she'll say, "What's wrong with you? You gotta, focus on what you're doing." I'm like, "Oh yeah."
Yeah, that's exactly the same for me, and it's actually a little bit disturbing because it's difficult if you're that kind of person. It's really difficult to get away from this and just focus on like if whatever you're doing. Like I can do the dishes while I'm thinking, but I things that are not like have to close the doors and stuff like that. It's like I just forget it, and I really try to improve, but it's just really really difficult.
Okay, can you give me a number between 1 and 10 so I can ask you a question from the art of people?
Yeah, I'll take 3.
What is your favorite charity organization to support and why?
I have 2 charity organizations. One, it's a Danish organization that fights against cancer. That's one organization that I'm supporting. Also, there's another organization that helps men that are not doing very well, like don't have any place to live and so on. And it's in our neighborhood here. I think that's a very good organization as well, and I support this as well.
Okay, we're about to get into your bio a little bit here, Christian. Before we do, what does CPH stand for?
CPH stands for Copenhagen, which is my city of birth.
Very simple.
Yes, it is.
Wonderful, wonderful Copenhagen.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've discussed your background in chess and things like that, Scrabble. So maybe it would be best if I asked you to read paragraphs 3 and 4 of your bio.
That's fine. I can do that. I focus on having a well-diversified portfolio, spreading risk across stocks, commodities, Forex, and a bit of crypto. My background in online marketing has given me experience in spotting new opportunities within tech. This has helped me boost performance. I trade in part based on algorithms that are already tested with real money, especially in Forex.
Right, we're going to get into the Forex algorithms in a little while. For now, let me just paint a little picture for the listener about your results down the years.
Yes.
Or the first thing that strikes someone when they look at your annual stats is that every year is a positive year. 2022 hasn't ended yet, but we live in hope. 2017, that was about 9 months of the year. It seems like 8 or 9 months, 23.5%. 2018, 26%. 2019, 10.5%. 2020, 44%. 2021, 35%. And year to date, 2022, we're on about minus 20. Now, one question I have about your track record is, on the Felix Falix video, it asks rhetorically about the extent that crypto was involved in years gone by. Can you fill us in a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I've been investing in crypto since 2017. Not so much on eToro, but also a bit on eToro. So I think I'd had some small crypto positions here, and then I was actually out of the market, I think, in 2018 in crypto, because it kind of peaked late in 2017. And I don't remember having any crypto during 18 and 19, but in 2020, I once again added and had some small crypto positions because I was looking at basically some technical analysis signals saying that there could be another bull run in crypto. So I did invest, and the second wave we had up to $67,000. I was part of that wave, part of that bull run. So I added to my positions on the way up, and then I knew it was going to pop at some time, the bubble. So I started selling out again. So I was kind of like trading it, scaling into it and scaling out. Because one thing that I've known as a trader is that you can never actually predict the actual, the complete top. So you should just scale in and out of position. So I was scaling in during 2020 and some of 2021. And then I started selling somewhere around, I think even before the peak in May 2021. So there was some crypto involvement there. I was varying my exposure a lot. So I started not having so much. Then I got a bit more, and then I scaled out of it again. And I think in June, I think I sold everything, all the crypto. No, not all. I still have a little bit, but I scaled it down again. Now we're kind of in a bear market for crypto, so I'm quite okay with that. My crypto exposure is quite low, but I think that it's a good idea to have a little bit of exposure to this. But obviously now crypto is very correlated with the Nasdaq, so it's not as interesting as it used to be. Because if it's just a leverage version of Nasdaq, then it's you may as well, just invest in the Nasdaq. So I think a lot of people are going to watch if this correlation holds up over the next month and years. And if it does, then crypto is going to be a little bit less interesting from an investment perspective. So the answer is yes, there has been some involvement in crypto at different times, but I've been a little bit in and out of the market.
Another reason perhaps why you've managed to sustain these positive annual results historically is that you've not been afraid to short the market on a couple of occasions, I understand, but you're not doing so right now.
That is true. I shorted the market on a few occasions, and I just employed a long short strategy in S&P 500 that I'm going to use. So I am going to short the market sometimes, but based on an algorithm this time. What I did earlier was I had on longer short positions, especially during March 2020, during the COVID shock. I had short position there to hedge against the volatility and the extreme drawdown we saw at that point. And I also did this in 2018. So I would say that I wasn't so afraid doing it at that point. And then, to be honest, I maybe got a little bit more afraid of shorting the market because I wanted to do it more based on algorithms, and especially with so many people copying me, because I have a large responsibility and it's not easy to short the market, and especially not to do it at the right time. I mean, it's easy to short it, but if you want to time it right, it's very challenging. And I know that because I've been trading for, 10 years. So for this reason, I do it based on an algorithm today.
Right, that's interesting you say that, because I wanted to ask you, you talk about you have a long-term time horizon on eToro.
Mm.
I get the feeling that you don't invest on eToro in exactly the same way you would if you were not on eToro. So my question is, what additional considerations are there in being a PI at your level, and how does that affect your behavior?
Yeah, so I think, I mean, I have some other portfolios, and in some of those portfolios, I just buy and hold. And if I was not an eToro, I would probably be much more passive than I am, for the reason that I basically find that long-term investing is the right way to go. On eToro, you have kind of pressure from yourself, but maybe also from copiers that you have a positive year. I think most people would like just to have positive month all the time, and I see there are a lot of PIs that are trying to do that, but that's a very dangerous strategy in my opinion to try to do that. But at least attempting to have a positive year is something that is within my considerations. So I like to have a long horizons, but on eToro I also try to optimize a bit so I can get a positive year. Obviously, this year I've been following the market, so my performance is more or less like the S&P. It's better than the Nasdaq, but I've been following the market in this downwards spiral. I didn't short the market. I think now I have some catching up to do to get on the positive year. So there's obviously a long way to go if you have minus 20%. We'll have to see what happens.
It's interesting to hear you talk like that, because I've been thinking a lot about that recently. Quite a few of the PIs I've spoken to recently are sort of more long-term buy and hold investors, which I think many people would agree is the way to go if you're investing for yourself and you've got a multi-decade, time horizon. But it's a different game you're playing as a PI on eToro, and it strikes me that you, maybe more than anyone else I've spoken to, is very in tune or attuned to the fact that your job is as a PI. There's lots of different things you have to do. You have to use everything in your locker to try and keep the performance going, to keep your copiers happy, even though your default setting might be just to buy quality and leave it for 10 or 15 years to run its course.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I'm not afraid to admit that I also changed my mind a little bit over time, where I set out to be a tech investor. And you will see that a lot of the people that are investing in tech this year, they had very good years for 2020 and 2021. But they just held on to the tech stocks, and now they're down like 40-50%. Some are down like 70% in some cases. And I just found out that that's not going to work for me. I cannot do it because it's too volatile for copiers. It wouldn't work well, I think. And a lot of people just held their tech investments. That's probably going to be fine if you look a decade ahead. But I think for this year, where you have a very risk-off sentiment in the market, I think you need to do a bit more if you want to have consistently good results. And then I just added some more things, some more of the tools that I have in my locker, as you said. And as I've been trading the last 10 years, I found out that I can actually do some things that copiers could benefit from. So using algorithms, using Forex trading and so on could be an addition to my portfolio that I think that most of the copiers are happy about. And that's the feeling I get.
Yes, just to make that point again about the difference between being a good investor and being a good PI. The competition isn't to see who can make the most money after 20 years. It's very much an ongoing battle to keep copiers happy, isn't it? To gain copiers, to keep them happy. And I think that can be very hard if you're a dyed-in-the-wool long-term value investor, because copiers may disappear in the lean times, and then a few come back when things are going well and they disappear again, and you're not constantly building the mountain of copiers that you need to get to the top. Would you agree with that?
completely. And it's like if you lose 70% in 6 months, or like 50% or 40%, then a few copiers will understand this. They will just disappear. So you can choose to ignore this completely, but for me, it's just like I need to also look a bit at this, because I cannot ignore it completely.
Okay, let's get back to the other main elements of your profile. Risk score. Let me just tell the listener a little bit what your risk score looks like. Over the past 12 months, like many, it's gone from green to yellow. The first 5 months that I'm looking at are all green, with average risk 3 or 4, max risk 3 or 4 pretty much, followed by a series of yellow months, mostly average risk 5, max risk 6. You happy with that risk score in the current environment?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's building very much on the volatility that we're seeing in the market. So I don't think I'm doing something that's very much different than, except for the Forex trading, of course. But except from that, I'm still like holding stocks in the same proportions as I used to. So I don't think that I'm doing something that's very different. And for this reason, it's just like the volatility changed, and then the risk that's given in the risk score seems to change too.
Copier numbers and assets under copy. As of the day of recording, copier numbers 18,550. The graph is a sort of up and down, bit of a mountain range with a reasonable drop, I suppose one would say, over recent times. What was your peak number of copiers, do you know?
I think I had 22,000 at some point. That was sometime last year.
And I can't see what your assets under copy are because it just gives the 5 million plus figure here.
It's $29.1 million.
Would you like to say that again? Or should we leave that ping in for as a sound effect? That might be quite effective. Let's leave that in. That's good. That's good humor.
Okay.
Because that's a tasty amount. If I had a ping sound effect, I might put it in.
Yeah, that's how it sounds like when the algo is suggesting a trade to me.
Okay, so as I mentioned before, it's pretty much a story of huge success without any significant negatives. So to my mind, it's about time for something potentially awkward. Christian, you ready for that?
Of course.
One potential negative we're going to discuss now, and I give you an opportunity to respond or clarify things for the avoidance of doubt. And it's on the issue of adding funds. As all eToro users should know, adding funds to your portfolio affects the monthly bar graph. The more you add and the closer to the end of the month, the greater the impact. If it's a red month or a green month, the addition of funds will bring your monthly result closer to zero. For this reason, PIs are instructed to add funds only at the start of the month. Now, I don't have the exact details, and correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there a time when you added funds late in a losing month? How did that happen?
Yeah, so what happened is that eToro has some limits that you have to meet if you want to become Elite Pro. So I had an account of around $12,000 at the time, and that was last spring. You need to add at least up to $50,000 to become an Elite Pro. That's one of the requirements for going to this level. So what I did was that I transferred the money and instructed eToro, the accountant team, to add it at the first in the month. And I think it was the first of, I don't remember if it was the 1st of May or 1st of June, which were my instructions. And then it was actually added, a few days before. So it was added late in the month, which is obviously not the optimal way to do it. I didn't want to put blame on anyone. I haven't spoken about this because I think it's something it wasn't my fault, but it does affect the stats. So I'll be happy to say that, but it's not something that was intentional, and it's something that I was asking the team for doing in the correct way. And actually, there may be an issue again because I have to add funds or may have to add funds at one point. Let's say the market drops like 10% or 20% from here, then I will go below the limit of $50,000. But this time, as eToro has assured me that it's going to be possible to add it exactly at the first in the month, and for this reason, I may have to do it, and that's going to not affect copiers in any way, because if it's added in the first of the month and I'm combining it with selling all my assets and then buying all the assets again, then it's not going to affect anyone. It's just going to help with the synchronization of the portfolios. And it's actually possible that I may have to do this next month.
So the incident occurred in May, June of 2021. Is that right? Because I'm looking at May here and I'm seeing minus 1.29.
Yeah.
So in fact, that should be a larger minus figure.
It should.
I don't know by how much.
And so it must have been added very late in May, where the intention was to add it in the 1st of June. And it was out of my hands. It's not something that I could affect in any way.
Okay, potentially awkward moment is now complete. Now then, trades per week, average holding time. Trades per week, 24.33. Average holding time, 1 month. This is presumably affected by your current strategy, which we're going to talk about shortly, where you're doing lots more Forex trades.
Yeah, I mean, this figure is probably going to rise even from there, I think, because I'm doing more trades per week than this currently. So this is kind of a mixture between the stock investing and the Forex trading. It's going to be a much higher number, and also the holding time is going to be shorter. So, but this is very much divided between stocks that I usually hold for a quite long time, and then Forex trades that I hold for a very short time. So these stats are an average of those two things, and for this reason, it's not so easy to use it for that much. Except that you can see that I'm having a lot of activity on the account. It's like, I think I had last month, I would have like 400 trades or so in one month.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, before we move on to the next section, let's discuss communication.
Yeah.
I lauded you earlier for using everything in your locker to grow as a PI and to get to the very top. Perhaps one thing that you don't do as much, or perhaps as well as you could, is communicate via YouTube or things like that to your copiers. You do. Well, tell us what you currently do and what your plans are for the future.
Yeah, okay. So first of all, what I do now is that I make status updates, and that's kind of, I would say on average every third week or so. And I'm telling a little bit about how things are going. Lately, I've been talking a lot about the algorithm that I've been employing. So that's I've had some updates about this adjustment of the strategy. But usually I try to write something every third week on average. What I would like to do in the future is to make more videos, because I know that people consume content in various different ways, and a lot of people just prefer video. I do a webinar every third month for eToro that I put on a YouTube channel that I have. But I would like to do more videos to tell about different aspects of investing, trading, and also the most common questions that people are asking me on eToro, because I can see that a lot of the questions are coming back. It's the same questions again and again. And for this reason, I think that especially on the video side, on the YouTube channel, I could do much more. I think I only have 5 videos on my YouTube channel, or 4 videos at this point, and I want to do much more in that respect. I was considering also something like doing more on Twitter and so, but right now I'm just using Twitter for research, and I'm not sure how I would use this effectively. So my plans are mostly for YouTube at this point.
Yeah, and it'll give you an opportunity to let your personality shine through a bit more if you're making videos,
Yeah.
because to my mind, this is just an opinion, but you come across as a very serious guy. And I know it's a serious business. Of course it is. But I already get the impression just from the chat that we're having today that you're much more personable chap than maybe your public persona would suggest.
Okay, but I'm happy to show something new then. But I think you have a good point.
That's all I like to hear.
Do you copy?
Do you copy?
Do you copy?
Do you copy?
Copytraders Club.
Copytraders Club.
Do you copy?
Do you copy?
Do you copy?
Do you copy?
Copytraders Club.
Copytraders Club.
Right, so Christian, let us delve a little bit deeper now into your portfolio. Normally, I open this section by describing to the listener the asset class allocation. But when I went to do that today, the statistics I'm given are all skewed because of what's going on with the Forex. It says currencies 80%, stocks 17%, all this kind of nonsense. I'm not sure quite why that is. So I'll have to describe it in a different way.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
So most of your invested column is in stocks with a small allocation to ETFs and a very small crypto, maybe 3 or 4%. I've seen you describe it as a solid portfolio, diversified, hedged. It contains themes like big tech behemoths, Google, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Meta, all quite big positions. Payments is another theme with Visa and MasterCard both. Cybersecurity with Fortinet and CrowdStrike. Banking with Bank of America and Wells Fargo, and a bit of energy and a bit of mining. Is that a fair way of describing the stocks?
I think so, yes.
Before we move away from stocks, let's have a quick look at the desync issue. See how the invested column differs from the value column. I'm not seeing a great deal of desync. Is that something you stay on top of?
Yeah, but I was actually informed by eToro. I was asking them about it, and they said that there are some desynchronization with some copiers, and for this reason, I'm considering to do the same maneuver that I did last year, which is to sell everything and buy everything again, because then everything is back in sync. And I think I can do it without sacrificing too much, because I have a lot of stocks that have no commission when I buy them. So I'm considering to do that in any case, just to make sure that copiers are synchronized, because I know that some people are not, but most people are quite well synchronized to my knowledge.
Now, I understand you have a cash position, normally around 25% these days, which is currently being used for Forex trading. So let's discuss, finally, your recent activity. We've mentioned it a few times, but now we're on to it. Your approach has seen a bit of a strategy adjustment.
That's true.
Talk us through that.
Yeah. So this year obviously has been a difficult year for many investors. And if you look at how the market has been developing, it's like you've had periods where just everything went down. At the beginning of the year, commodities, energy were doing well. Tech was certainly not doing well, and especially the non-profitable tech companies were not doing well. You get the feeling that everything is just one big trade, which is like risk on or risk off. And at some point we had like several weeks where everything was just losing value, except from the US dollar, which is the hedge that you could be using in this environment. Based on this, but also based on a lot of the work I was doing on the sideline, I chose to implement a Forex trading algorithm that I'm employing today. I found it good in this environment because I can trade it alongside with the portfolio and then having two strategies at the same time. So I can have a long-term stock portfolio, which I think have a positive expectancy because this is what stocks have in the long term. But also I could have a Forex strategy, which was very well tested and have been running already on a live account, traded automatically with $40,000, this specific strategy for the last 16 months. So I was quite comfortable about employing this strategy, which is something I did then. And it actually shows that while the market is going down sometimes, this strategy can actually provide with returns during these periods. And that's what I'm quite happy about.
Okay, and where did this algorithm come from?
So I'm working with a team of 3 quants, and they're not employed by me. It's just a cooperation we have. So I give them something of value, and they give me something of value, and then we cooperate about this algorithm. I actually have 2 teams I'm working with like this. Well, one team is the 3 mathematicians that I'm working with. Another team is like a programmer / a mathematician that I'm working with on some stock strategies that I may employ on the portfolio as well. It's just like cooperation between independent people. Nobody is employing each other. We're just cooperating on some stuff.
Okay, and just to give an idea to the listener of how the extent to which this is in play, since the 10th of May, you've only been doing Forex trades, and we're now the 11th of July. Back on the 10th of May, you also added a little to your Apple, Microsoft, Google, MasterCard, Fortinet. But basically, since the start of May, it's been all Forex. Will this become a permanent part of your eToro approach?
Yeah, it will, because this strategy, even though it does seem to perform especially well when the market is very volatile and losing value, like the stock market is doing now, it also performs pretty good in other kinds of market regimes. So it's certainly going to be part of my portfolio also going forward. I think that the timing of doing it now has been quite good, because it helped me get through this difficult time. But I'm going to keep on trading Forex going forward as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I personally am kind of overweight. I better finish that sentence off. I'm personally overweight in Forex. I've invested in a fund that's so consistent. It's really extraordinary. And, it's great comfort when everything else is going south. So I know where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's a part of the diversification that I think is good to have, and I'm happy to have it in my portfolio as well. Outside of eToro, I also have like real estate investment and other things. So I try to do as much diversification as possible, and this I'm happy to be able to bring this to eToro as well, because I was trading it, automatically, but outside of eToro. But now I can also do it on eToro, and that's great.
So let's just talk about your approach to Forex. I just opened a few positions there. I see you're using 20 times leverage, tight stop losses, yet your average risk score is still 5 or 6. I just want to ask one thing, and that's Forex trading often includes a grid system, martingale styles of continually increasing trades when initial losses arise. What's your view on this style?
I think it's extremely dangerous to do martingale on a big scale, like keep on adding to your losing positions if you do it again and again and again. It's something that can make your strategy look very good for a long time, maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years, and then suddenly it crashes completely when the market goes too much against you. So it's extremely dangerous to do it, and you should actually examine in great detail what Forex algorithms are doing when you invest in something like this, because there are a lot of martingale strategies out there, and they can lose your money very quickly.
So you mentioned you got rid of a bunch of unprofitable positions, some of the more speculative tech, maybe Datadog and Cloudflare, things like that.
I did. I found the timing for those positions were not very good. I sold the positions that you mentioned there. I sold C Limited. I sold Mercado Libre. All of those positions I sold earlier this year. I could have sold them earlier with the hindsight bias, but I see that those companies are trading much lower now. And so I actually mitigated the losses from some of those positions. I still think those companies are great companies, but it's just very problematic to have a too large exposure to this kind of these kind of stocks in this environment. So I decided to exit them, and I'm quite happy about this decision because it turned out they lost like 40% since I sold them. So it's something that I'm happy about. Of course, it would have been nice if I went out of those positions even earlier, but sometimes it takes some time for you to digest what's actually happening in the market. And when you look back, it looks like it's very simple and very easy, but I'm happy that I at least managed to get out of those positions before they dropped another 40%.
Yes, well, let's not look back. Let's look forward. You mentioned the environment. You're expecting a choppy next 6 to 12 months, I hear you say, in the stock market.
Yeah, I think there's still some downside risk in the market, and there's still a risk of we could see another leg down in the market, I think, unfortunately. For this to change, I think the macro environment has to change somehow. So we need to see inflation come much further down than it is now. We're not even sure if it has peaked yet. We also need to see the Fed speeding down their interest rates hikes. And before they start doing this, I don't think we're going to see much of a change in the market. So until this happens, there's downside risk, I think. I'm not saying that it's going to happen for sure. Like everything is just probabilities, but I'm just saying that there's a risk of the market going lower from here. On the other hand, when the macro environment changes, and I think it can happen later this year, then we could see a rapid turnaround. It's certainly possible that this could happen. But in the short term, I'm not ready to buy the speculative positions yet. I'm not ready to buy the unprofitable companies yet. I'm not ready to buy risk-on assets yet. I think we still have a risk-off environment.
Yeah, we're entering earnings season, and I see a lot of learned people suggesting that earnings forecasts are about to knock prices down further.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a distinct possibility?
So I think, the earnings season is starting, and I think it's certainly a risk that the analysts may not have priced in all of what's going to happen. We may see that they're going to adjust their estimates, and this can lead to lower prices. So I certainly think that's a risk in the market. On the other hand, a lot of people has already voiced this concern, so you would expect this to be somewhat priced into the market. So I think the companies need to underperform clearly for the market to go lower. So I'm very excited to see what's going to happen in this season, and it's very, very difficult to predict. So I'm just following it closely.
Yeah. Some of the commentary that I've been coming across saying things like Micron was the canary in the coal mine, knocked it out of the park in terms of results, but forward guidance is disappointing looking. And that was enough to send them tanking.
Yeah, so that's certainly possible. I also heard some analysts saying that it may be easy to just slash your forward guidance because that it sets you up to overperform later. But on the other hand, if you see some company like Micron performing like this, that would really that could scare you. And I think it's also something that shows that there's some risk in the market, and especially in an important area like the semiconductor industry, when it happens there, you should be a little bit worried about what could happen. But on the other hand, I think that market participants have been very much worried. So some of this is already priced in to some extent, in my opinion. So that's always the questions like how much is already priced in, and it's not an easy question to answer.
So generally speaking, would you say your approach therefore going forward is to continue with your Forex trading to allow you to tread water until the environment shifts sufficiently?
Yeah, I am going to continue to trade the Forex in any case, but I would say that I'm right now open to the recession scenario. So it's like most analysts agree, like it would be like 50-50 chance of a recession. It could be a mild recession. It could be a worse recession. And depending on how this play out, it's certainly a scenario that you should be open to, that this can actually happen. So right now I'm analyzing if my portfolio is like, is it recession proof? Like, can I add some elements in there if we go into a recession or am I doing fine? And I may make some small adjustments based on that. But in general, I think I have a very solid portfolio with some great companies, and I think they're going to do well even in a recession. I think they're going to overperform. So in this case, I feel pretty good about the portfolio that I have. And I just think that if you're in the market right now, you need to be open to this possibility or this risk that we could actually be seeing a recession within the next year.
Talking of overperformance, why don't you tell us about your best ever investment?
So, well, I think that actually some of the best investments that I have were also some of the ones that became the worst, because you would say that during 2020, I invested in some of those companies that really had great headwind, like C Limited, Mercado Libre, and so on. They rose like several 100%. And I was investing in those companies on most of this journey, and so those were pretty good investments. Recently, I think I shifted my strategy like 1 year ago, starting to buy commodities, and I think that's something that I'm maybe a little bit more proud of, because that was less obvious at the time. I think investing in the tech companies was maybe a little bit more obvious at the time, but changing and investing in commodities 1 year ago was less obvious. So I'm more proud about that, actually, even though the percentage gains were much smaller for this.
So does your answer cover the question about worst investments also?
I would say some of the companies that were the best investments did become some of the worst investments, because a company like C Limited later, I think it fell like 40% or something before I sold it. And then it fell another 40%. So it was kind of it was also one of the worst investments, which is a little bit paradoxical. But yeah, I would say that it was very volatile, and obviously, I looking back, I would have liked to gotten out a little bit before that. But I was keeping my faith in those companies because they are really good companies. But the macro environment changed so much that it was something that with a hindsight bias, I could have reacted on a little bit before.
Had you taken any profits on the way up?
No, I didn't take any profits, and I did this with the Bitcoin. I did it very well with Bitcoin because I realized that this is going to be a bubble, so I'm going to trade the bubble. And I didn't realize in the same way that the non-profitable tech companies were a bubble in the way that it turned out that they were. Like they have lost 80% of value now. So I was sure that Bitcoin was a bubble, but I like to trade it anyway. And I didn't have the same conviction with those non-profitable tech stocks. So for this reason, I reacted a bit later on that one. But on the other hand, if you compare me to other tech investors, that you have a lot of people that just rode it all the way down, and they are like 50% down, 60% down now. So in this sense, I did react much before they did, and for this reason, I'm actually performing more or less like the S&P this year, and quite a lot better than the Nasdaq. So I had the good years, 2020, 21, and then this year, which is a bad year, I'm more or less performing like the indices. So overall, I'm quite happy about the way I've been playing it, but obviously, when you look back, you wish that you could have done even a few things better.
Okay, let's move the conversation on to copying. Who should copy Christian?
I think people that are patient would be my favorite copiers, because I see a lot of impatient people, also a lot of very patient people on eToro. So you have both investor profiles in there. And when I see someone copying me for a few days or a week or a few weeks, and then the market went down during this period and they lost 3% perhaps, and then they are very angry about this. That's the person I don't like to copy me. So now I think I answered both questions in one, but I really prefer people that they like to invest their money for a few years, like ideally at least 3 years, because then you are much more likely to get success with your investment. So it's like the longer your time horizon is, the better are your odds of being profitable investing. And if your time horizon is 2 weeks, then you may as well go to the casino, I think, because it's almost random. It's like maybe your chances are 51%, but if you invest for 10 years, for instance, then your chances will be 94%. So the longer your horizon is, the better are your chances, and that's something I try to teach. That's a big word, but I try to tell people about this, that your odds are actually getting better and better the longer horizon you have. So the ideal copier is someone who has a pretty long horizon and also likes to discuss with me and likes to follow what I'm doing and likes to have a dialogue with me. I love having a good dialogue with people on eToro, and so that's the ideal copier.
Well, that leads me on to another question, which is connected to what I said earlier, that you seem to have very skillfully managed your rise up the PI ladder on eToro. And I don't mean that negatively, that's a compliment. Now, what are the main elements to which you attribute that success? I see that you emphasize a patient long-term outlook. I see that your copiers can probably identify that you put a lot of thought into your portfolio construction, and it's not static but managed. And you encourage copiers to make investing a habit. Those all strike me as important things to do if you want to be successful as a PI. But what else? Tell us, what else do you attribute your success to?
I think I allow myself to learn new things, in the sense that I can realize that I did something wrong previously, and I can improve on that, and I can learn from this mistake. So I see that I do something and it didn't have the best effect, and then I'm not too scared to admit that I was wrong and learn from this mistake. And I think that's one thing that I might have been learning from playing chess, especially chess, but maybe also Scrabble. When you go home and you lost a game, then you analyze the game and then you get better because you learn from your mistakes. And also as a trader, you have to get used to the fact that you are wrong like 40% of the time, like 45% of the time, and that's okay. But you can actually learn from your mistakes, and if you don't have a too big ego, you can allow yourself to say, I was wrong, I need to learn from this. Then you can actually do much better over time. So investing on eToro, I have 5 years of experience. I've been investing more before that, but I have learned while I've been on eToro, and I'm still learning, and I allow myself to learn something and allow myself to become better, and I'm happy to admit to myself when I'm doing something wrong. If you have a too big ego, then you may not allow yourself to do that, and I think that's actually the main factor for being successful on eToro, but also in a lot of other things that I do. You should be able to not think that you're always the smartest guy, that you can get smarter.
What role should you as a PI play in a copier's portfolio? And if you were recommending a friend to join eToro, what sort of portfolio would you recommend to him? How many PIs? How do they balance with what you do?
I think I would recommend just copying a few PIs, because it's difficult to keep track on what everyone is doing, and they have so many investments, each of them, so it's difficult to follow what you're actually investing in yourself. If you copy 10 PIs, it's certainly possible to do it, but then you should try to find some people that complement each other. So I would say if you found some, I would suggest maybe just adding a few more PIs if you copy me, and find someone that's doing something that's quite different from what I'm doing. And I would say, for instance, value investors that are investing in traditional companies like Coca-Cola, health companies, stuff that's different from what I'm doing. That's the perfect combination with what I'm doing, because I tend to have a little bit more tech. I tend to be like future oriented in my way of investing. I have had a lot of tech in my portfolio, and I'm going to keep on doing that. So ideally, you would want to find someone that's doing something different. And I've seen a few good value investors coming up on eToro lately. Some of those people that are actually presented as editor's choice during the last 6 months. I met some people on in London as well, and I think there are some good value investors on eToro. So I think you should probably consider to supplement with this. That might be an option.
You mentioned editor's choice. How many times have you been on?
I think one or two times. I think maybe 2 times during last year. And I was on for like 3 or 4 weeks at one time, and I think I was away, and then I think I came back. I think I've been there two times.
And both times did they result in huge influxes of devotees?
Yeah, huge amounts of copiers. It's like, but I think we talked a little bit about this earlier. Like last year, when you had the lockdown situation and everyone was just home investing, I got lucky with this timing. I was doing very well, and also, of course, I have like several years of good results. But that timing of being promoted at that point was especially good. So if I'd been promoted this year, I would have been doing good as well. But that timing was just extraordinary.
What changes would you like to see on eToro?
I think the main thing that would be an improvement, and it's also something that I've been discussing a bit with eToro, is like to have the stats presented in a way where you're not putting so much emphasis on the latest monthly performance. So if you look at the profiles, you go to the stats page, you will see those big green bars and red bars, which makes you focus very much on what has been happening in the last 5 to 6 months. And I know that eToro puts a lot of value into long-term investing and also to long-term performance. That's actually one of the values that eToro will have going forward, that they will have some people that have like 10 years of trading and investing history on eToro, performing very well, and that's what I'm going to have down the line. But then let's say I have like 15 years of trading history on eToro or investing history, and then you still only see the bars of my last 3 months. And if I've been doing a little bit poorly during those months because the markets went down, then it looks like I'm not a good investor, which is not the right way to show performance in my view. So for this reason, I've given my input to eToro to say that the optimal way of showing how people perform on eToro is to show your performance against a benchmark, and then you could do it on a short horizon, on a long horizon, but that ought to be the main way that you present this, and also putting more emphasis on long-term performance and the long-term performance against the benchmark.
Well, what do you mean by the benchmark, though?
Well, the benchmark would be like an index. If you're a stock investor, then you would be measuring yourself against S&P 500 or the Nasdaq or MSCI World Index. So you could maybe define a benchmark for yourself, or the people that wants to make the analysis could choose from different benchmark to benchmark you against, and then they would see how have you actually been performing over your whole eToro career against this benchmark, and that's something that you have in the fact sheet, which I think is really important, and I think that's actually something that would help copyers to take better decisions about who to copy, instead of just choosing those people that try to get a green month every month, because I can do this as well, and I think I can do it better than most people, but I don't want to do it because it's extremely risky, especially as some people are using martingale techniques to do it. So you encourage people to trade in a way that's not the right way, in my opinion, to do that. And I think it's connecting to eToro originally being a platform that focused more on trading. And this kind of way of showing the statistics is something that we have for historical reasons. But in my opinion, now is the place to change this. Besides from that, I think eToro is a very user-friendly platform, but that's one thing to change for the better, in my opinion.
The benchmark on the fact sheet is by default the S&P 500. which only applies to a small group of people on eToro. And because eToro is such a multi-asset platform, the whole issue of benchmarks can get very complicated. Like, what really are you measuring this guy's performance against when he's got all this huge portfolio of different asset classes? It can be very tricky.
It's tricky. So I think allowing the users to choose between a few different benchmarks, which would normally just be the big stock indices and maybe some local indices as well. I think that's probably the best thing you can do. And I agree. Like, if you have a Forex trader, maybe it's not so obvious to compare it against the S&P. So it's not like solving all the issues, but it would solve some issues in the sense that putting more emphasis on long-term performance and also on benchmark, especially for those people that invest in stocks, would make copiers able to choose a little bit better who they copy, and also have less disappointments, and also more focus on long-term performance, which I think is extremely important.
Yeah, it's difficult to be all things to all users, though, isn't it?
It's certainly difficult. So overall, I think it's working pretty well. I mean, it's very user friendly, the platform, and I'm happy about trading. And I think especially about the possibility to have fractional shares, stuff like that, is making it more accessible to people to be able to trade shares. Also, copy trading is very accessible way of dealing with the financial markets. So there are some really good innovations in there. And I think putting more emphasis on long-term performance might be a slight adjustment that would make the whole thing a little bit better.
Yeah, for old boys like us, Christian, eToro's a complete revolution. It's incredible. The fractional shares, no fees, the access you have to the people that are making the decisions about your cash. It's just an unbelievable thing. You must wake up every day and clap your hands together that you came across eToro as early as you did.
Yeah, I mean, that's another way I was lucky. I think I just happened to be there. I came a little bit late to the party. Actually, I mean, there were people that have been copy trading for much longer time.
The party's only getting started.
I hope so. I hope so.
Okay, final question, Christian. What one question do you wish I had asked you that I haven't?
I'm disappointed about you didn't ask me about my IQ.
Oh, forgive me. Please tell me about your IQ, Christian.
Okay, so there was this jigsaw puzzle that I was doing, and I solved it in half a year, but it said 2 to 4 years on the box.
Very good. I assume you have an IQ result somewhere in a drawer that you want to tell us about.
No, honestly, I don't have it. I just wanted to tell a joke.
Okay, that's interesting because the previous time IQ came up was with fund manager Zek, who was always told when he was young that he was, slow and stupid and stuff, but it was because he was dyslexic. He wasn't able to translate his intelligence to the teachers at a young age. So it was a big deal for him to learn from an IQ test that he was in fact very smart. But I don't think your life history is such that you've always wondered whether or not you're smart.
I've never been dyslexic, so I was always very good at, spelling and everything that's related to my own language. So that hasn't been a problem for me.
That's handy for a Scrabble champ.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I would have become the champ without being able to spell.
Well, you became a champ in Scrabble, and thus far you've become quite a champ on eToro, one of the few black stars, doing very nicely, risen to the top. Congratulations on all your success.
Thanks.
And long may it continue.
We hope so.
All right, Christian, all the very best. Thanks for coming by Copytraders Clubhouse.
It was really nice being here. Thanks for having me.
There you go, listener. That was Christian Kongsted, a high-achieving, high-flying PI. Needs to work on his pull-ups and perhaps his stand-up comedy. But very interesting to get to know him and his methods a little bit better. Having got to the top, I imagine he has what it takes to stay there. But only time will tell. That's all from me. See you on Discord and Facebook. Until next time we meet at Copytraders Club, I wish you many happy returns. Obviously, anything you hear in this podcast is for entertainment only, not financial advice. Do your own research. This is just generic chit-chat. We don't know your individual circumstances, etc., etc., and so forth.